Zoë Kravitz remained silent for years. Growing up under the spotlight of two legendary figures in entertainment, she became known for her grace, style, and seemingly effortless cool. Yet behind the carefully maintained persona was a lifetime of emotional complexity, a childhood marked by instability, 2 public divorces, and a bond with her mother strained by fame, distance, and difficult decisions. Then, in an unexpected turn, Zoë finally opened up. What began as an ordinary interview quickly evolved into something raw and deeply moving, a confession that had been building for decades. In one tearful moment, she shared a truth she had long kept hidden. And the name she uttered was one no one anticipated: Lisa Bonet. The love story between Lisa Bonet and Lenny Kravitz was otherworldly but fleeting. From the beginning, their connection felt almost magical. Lisa, already a cultural icon thanks to The Cosby Show, exuded a calm, ethereal presence that drew people in. Lenny, an emerging artist blending rock, funk, and soul, was captivated by her from the start. They quickly fell in love and married in 1987, united by their passion for art, rebellion, and personal freedom. Just a year later, they welcomed their daughter, Zoë Isabella Kravitz. To the outside world, they seemed like the perfect couple, stylish, bold, and passionately in love. But behind closed doors, the foundation was already cracking. They were young and still trying to find themselves while in the public eye. Neither of them fully understood the gravity of the commitment they had made. Lenny, feeling overwhelmed by the emotional strain of fame and creativity, began to withdraw and search for stimulation elsewhere. Lisa, in contrast, craved peace and intimacy. She longed to raise their daughter in a calm, loving environment. Though Lenny loved both Lisa and Zoë, his rapidly accelerating career constantly pulled him away. He was touring, recording, and chasing success, leaving behind emotional voids that only grew over time. Eventually, infidelity entered their relationship. Lenny has since spoken candidly about cheating, attributing it to his immaturity and emotional unpreparedness. Admitting it was one of the most painful experiences of his life, and it ultimately brought their relationship to a respectful but definitive close. They separated in 1991, and by 1993, the divorce was finalized. There were no public outbursts or legal battles, just 2 people who had once shared something beautiful and now had to navigate life apart while co-parenting. For Zoë, their separation meant living between 2 vastly different worlds. One was grounded in her mother's determination to shield her from the chaos of celebrity, the other was shaped by her father's international fame and ever-shifting lifestyle. Her childhood was filled with contrast and uncertainty, forcing her to make sense of an identity formed by both worlds. She was old enough to understand that her father had broken a sacred promise to her mother, and she often sided with Lisa when parenting disagreements arose. Yet she was still too young to fully grasp the emotional complexity of their split, which left lasting wounds on all 3 of them. This early pain would later become the foundation of Zoe's emotional journey, one she would eventually confront with striking vulnerability. Years later, when she finally spoke about her relationship with her mother, the unresolved pain of her early years re-emerged in unexpected ways. Her upbringing under Lisa's care was defined by deep love and spiritual guidance, an environment some viewed as serene, but one that felt confining to a young girl striving to define herself. After the divorce, Lisa became Zoe's primary caregiver and raised her in the quiet, bohemian enclave of Topanga Canyon, nestled in the hills outside Los Angeles. Their home was more than a refuge, it was a spiritual haven, far removed from paparazzi and the noise of Hollywood. Lisa cultivated a space filled with incense, meditation, acoustic music, poetry, and rituals. Her parenting approach was intentional and rooted in mindfulness. She homeschooled Zoe for a time, encouraged emotional depth, and surrounded her with books, art, and self-reflection. She enforced clear rules: no sleepovers if Lenny had company, no late-night outings, no public events unless absolutely necessary. Lisa kept Zoe out of the spotlight, believing children deserved privacy and emotional safety above all. But to a young girl eager for independence, those boundaries often felt restrictive rather than protective. The sanctuary her mother created sometimes felt like a cage. Zoë, like many spirited young girls, longed for freedom. She dreamed of attending public school, spending time with friends, and doing all the things kids her age typically did, without feeling confined. The peaceful routines her mother Lisa introduced, like meditation, spiritual cleansing, and time in nature, often felt more like restrictions than connections. What Lisa considered sacred, Zoë often questioned or dismissed. Watching her father live a dazzling life filled with parties, red carpets, and months-long international tours only added to her sense of being trapped. A painful thought began to surface: had she chosen the wrong side in the divorce? Had her father felt just as confined? As the years passed, tension between Zoë and Lisa quietly grew. Lisa's intense love often felt stifling, and Zoë found it hard to express who she truly was. Both strong-willed, their arguments could become fierce. During one particularly emotional clash, Lisa broke down in tears, pleading, "Why don't you understand me? I love you." Zoë, overwhelmed and upset, responded with words that would linger painfully in her memory: "I want to go live with Dad." She was just 11 when she made the life-altering decision to leave. That moment created a deep divide between them. Lisa stood by as her daughter packed, her tear-filled eyes hiding behind a strained smile that barely concealed her sorrow. Zoë wouldn't grasp the meaning of that expression until much later, when life allowed her to view her mother through a new perspective. Those early years, marked by boundaries, incense, and a love so powerful it sometimes felt smothering, shaped her views on love, discipline, and emotional safety. For a long time, she believed she had escaped something heavy. Only later would she realize she had left behind something truly rare. The freedom she had desperately sought was waiting for her, but it came with a price she hadn't yet imagined. Moving in with her father at age 11 felt like stepping into a dream. Lenny Kravitz, cool, gifted, and magnetic, welcomed her into a glittering world of possibility. Gone were the rituals and rules of her mother's serene Topanga home. In their place was a thrilling, limitless freedom. They first lived in Miami, then relocated to New York City. Life buzzed with excitement. Zoë had room to grow, to redefine herself, to be adventurous and free. Most importantly, she was finally close to the parent she had longed for. But even that dream had its shadows. Lenny was at the height of his stardom, riding the success of hit albums like Five and Lenny. He toured the world, Paris, Tokyo, London, Rio, and spent long stretches in studios and on stage. He was everywhere, except home. Zoë often joined him on the road, catching rare glimpses of the celebrity lifestyle, backstage passes, flashing lights, hotel rooms in exotic cities. But when the applause faded and the doors shut, she often found herself alone. Initially, that independence felt liberating. She could stay out late, wear what she wanted, listen to any music she liked. There was no pressure to meditate or smell incense burning in every corner. Yet gradually, that excitement began to feel empty. The emotional support she once resented began to feel like something she quietly missed. Lenny loved her deeply, but his life moved at high speed, and Zoë was left to navigate her personal struggles without the steady foundation her mother once offered. During her teenage years, the lack of structure became more evident. She experimented with the party scene, tried on different looks and identities, and wrestled with questions about her own sense of self. There were moments of rebellion, flashes of brilliance, and long periods of loneliness. In later interviews, she admitted that while she had freedom, she lacked direction, and had to teach herself how to stay safe, because no one else was there to do it. As she grew older, the full cost of her decision became clear. The safety of her mother's home, the prayers, the rituals, and the calming presence she once dismissed were now memories she missed quietly. She never spoke of it, not to Lenny, not to Lisa, not even to herself. The sorrow remained hidden until, years later, all the words she had swallowed finally surfaced in a deeply emotional reckoning. No one anticipated that a moment of reckoning would begin to unfold just as someone new came into Lisa's life, a man who brought with him the promise of love, safety, and the dream of a reunited family. It marked the beginning of a new chapter, one that seemed destined to last. By 2005, Lisa Bonet had spent more than 10 years quietly recovering, far removed from the spotlight of Hollywood. That same year, she crossed paths with Jason Momoa at a jazz club in Los Angeles. Their meeting felt like more than chance, it was the realization of a dream Jason had held since childhood. At just 8 years old, after watching Lisa on The Cosby Show, he had told his mother that one day he would marry her. It seemed the universe had finally made good on that childhood vow. The connection between them was immediate. They shared a love for spirituality, art, nature, and a mindful way of living. Jason, with his rugged charm and kind heart, approached Lisa with tenderness. Most importantly, his love extended beyond Lisa, he embraced her family as well. Not long into their relationship, Lisa introduced Jason to her daughter, Zoe, who was 16 at the time. The bond between Jason and Zoe was natural and effortless. He never tried to take Lenny Kravitz's place in her life but instead found his own role, a constant, supportive presence. Their blended family soon captivated public interest, and rightly so. From the start, Jason stood by Zoe's creative ambitions. He attended her early movie premieres, celebrated her modeling achievements, and always spoke of her with sincere admiration. He called her Mizo, and she affectionately dubbed him Papa Bear, a name she would later highlight in a 2018 Instagram post showing them laughing together behind the scenes. They surfed together in Hawaii, celebrated birthdays in quiet intimacy, and walked red carpets as a unified, loving family. When Lisa and Jason welcomed 2 more children, Lola and Nakoa Wolf, Zoe embraced her new role as big sister. She doted on her younger siblings, often sharing photos of their family life and lovingly referring to them as her babies. For a time, everything seemed perfectly aligned. Lisa, who had spent years recovering from heartbreak and solitude, appeared vibrant and secure. And Zoe, still carving her path, found peace in witnessing her mother so openly loved. In 2017, Jason and Lisa were married in an intimate ceremony, surrounded by close family and friends. The news didn't reach the public until months later, reflecting how sacred and private their union truly was. Their relationship appeared unshakable, the kind of love built to last. But quietly, things had started to change. The very traits that drew them together, Lisa's need for spiritual calm and Jason's outgoing, energetic nature, began to create distance. Small cracks started forming, gradually growing wider. To Zoe, those shifts were hidden. What she saw was a mother finally at peace. And after all they had endured, that happiness was everything. But what seemed like forever came to an end far sooner than anyone imagined. When the relationship unraveled, it hit Zoe harder than she could have expected. The news of Lisa and Jason's split in January 2022 stunned the world. After 16 years together and only 5 years of marriage, they released a heartfelt, poetic statement announcing their separation, one that spoke of parting with love still intact. But beneath the beautifully crafted words was a more painful truth, one that shook the image of their once unbreakable bond. To the public, Lisa and Jason represented a rare kind of grounded, soulful connection, a striking contrast to the typical Hollywood love story. Their relationship felt sacred, almost spiritual. That's why the breakup resonated as more than just celebrity gossip, it felt like a shared loss. But for Zoe, it was more than a story in the headlines, it was a reopening of an old emotional wound, watching her mother's heart break for a second time. Though the full reasons for the separation were never laid bare, insiders described a slow emotional drifting that neither partner could deny. Jason's career had skyrocketed, especially after his role in Aquaman, bringing with it constant travel, demanding shoots, and global premieres. Meanwhile, Lisa, long withdrawn from the Hollywood scene, valued a quieter, grounded life filled with ritual and depth. As Jason's fame soared, Lisa's preference for stillness and spiritual connection clashed more with the chaotic demands of his career. Their worlds began to move in different directions. Jason thrived on activity and outward expression, while Lisa found peace and stillness in inner reflection. It wasn't infidelity or betrayal that ended their marriage, it was a growing incompatibility they could no longer ignore. Emotionally and philosophically, they had begun to live separate lives. The timing couldn't have been more painful for Zoe. She had watched her mother heal from the heartbreak of her past, seen the joy slowly return to her eyes, and believed, at last, that Lisa had found lasting love. The divorce didn't just surprise her, it struck deep. Zoë later revealed that phone calls with her mother began to feel different. Lisa's voice, once strong and full of warmth, began to falter. She just sounded so weak, Zoë recalled in a later interview. Sometimes her voice cracked. I hadn't heard that in years. It was a sound that stirred old memories, the same quiet sadness Zoë had heard long ago, back when she left her mother's home at 11. Friends close to the family shared that Zoë was deeply affected by the breakup. In the weeks that followed, she withdrew from several public events after her intense and passionate romance with actor Carl Guzman had started out with promise. The two married in June 2019 in a breathtaking ceremony in Paris, held at her father Lenny Kravitz's 18th-century home. The guest list was full of stars, the photos were stunning, and the atmosphere felt intimate and magical. For a moment, it seemed like Zoë had rewritten her family's narrative. But behind those carefully crafted moments, the relationship was already under strain. By December 2020, Zoë filed for divorce. The separation was finalized in August 2021. Although neither of them shared the exact reasons, people close to the couple mentioned emotional distance and unmet expectations as key issues. Around the same time, Lisa and Jason's relationship was also beginning to show cracks, even though their breakup wasn't announced until early 2022. By then, online speculation and harsh comparisons were already surfacing. Social media users attacked Zoë with cruel comments like mother, like daughter, and another failed marriage, no surprise. Some even targeted Lisa, blaming her for Zoe's struggles. The accusations grew uglier. Critics claimed Lisa had raised her daughter to fail in love, that her unconventional and spiritual parenting had left Zoë unprepared for commitment. Zoë, who had always seemed poised and in control, suddenly became the target of blame not only for her divorce but for her mother's as well. It felt as if Zoe's heartbreak was seen as a continuation of Lisa's, a curse passed down. But what people didn't see was that behind Zoe's composed silence, she was quietly falling apart. It wasn't just her own failed marriage causing pain, it was the growing guilt, the grief layered over the years, and the regrets she had never expressed. The online cruelty only amplified something deeper. It triggered old memories, unhealed wounds, and difficult choices she had tried to bury. In that fragile emotional space, Zoë finally decided to speak, not as a celebrity defending her image, but as a daughter who had been silently carrying too much for too long. Her words didn't come in a press statement. They came in a breakdown, raw, emotional, and unfiltered. During a 2025 profile interview, in a quiet sunlit room, Zoë opened up. There was no script or plan. But when the topic turned to her mother, something broke loose inside her. Her voice cracked, her eyes filled with tears, and suddenly she was crying. For years, she had discussed her parents with practiced ease, often using humor or careful avoidance. But this time, there was no holding back. She confessed the one choice that still haunted her, leaving her mother at age 11 to live with her father. Her eyes were red as she recalled it. She wore a smile, but it was filled with pain. I didn't care then, but as I got older, I realized Dad wasn't even there. I just left her standing there, she admitted. Zoë explained how, for years, she believed moving in with her father had been the right choice. It gave her freedom, excitement, and glamour. But as time passed, and especially as her own relationships began to fall apart, she started to understand what she had given up. Lisa wasn't trying to control her. She had been trying to protect her from the chaos, from the pressures, from a world that devours young women. She was trying to protect something sacred in me, and I didn't get it. I ran from it, Zoë said. Tears continued to fall as she spoke about her mother's two major heartbreaks, first with Lenny Kravitz, then with Jason Momoa. Zoë revealed that she and Lisa had entered a new stage in their relationship, not one based on forced closeness or formality, but on genuine emotional honesty. They were finally having the deep conversations they never had when Zoë was growing up. They were beginning to heal together. "The best thing I ever did was stop pretending we had to be perfect to love each other properly," Zoë shared. Her message was clear: while the past may shape you, it doesn't have to define you. By honoring her mother with clarity and compassion, Zoë is creating a future not based on perfection, but on emotional freedom.